بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم اللهم صل وسلم على سيدنا محمد وعلى آل سيدنا محمد وبارك وسلم رب اشرح لي صدري ويسر لي أمري واحلل عقدة من لساني يفقهوا قولي سبحانك لا علم لنا إلا ما علمتنا سبحانك لا علم لنا إلا ما علمتنا سبحانك لا علم لنا إلا ما علمتنا ما بعد. One of the things that we have heard from our tafsir last night as well is the importance of standing up for the rights of our fellow Muslim brothers and sisters wherever they may be. It is a dictate of our iman that we have love and care and sympathy for one another, and that when any one of us is going through pain, the other one feels that pain. And these past months have been a very important time for all of us to express that, to show what we're made of. And those who are devout materialists, those who are devout worshippers of their own desires and their own beneficial things that benefit them in their dunya, then they do not differentiate between who is being killed, who is being tortured, whether it's a believer or a non-believer. As long as their goals in life, their aspirations, and their material gains are not dented, they don't have an issue with that. But on the other hand, a believer is the one who stands up for justice regardless of who the oppressed person is. And most definitely, when the one who is being oppressed is a believer in La ilaha illallah Muhammadur Rasulullah, then of course his pain is even more. He's like a body that feels the pain. When a portion of the body is in pain, the rest of the body, as Rasulullah says, would stay awake, won't fall asleep, will have a fever due to the infection in a portion of the body. So this past now months have passed by with no seemingly end to the atrocities being committed in Gaza. What we have seen, interestingly here, is that there are people who are non-Muslims who have repeatedly shown their commitment to justice many times more than we as Muslims have. I wasn't aware until it was happening yesterday, what was it, on Monday, that there were a bunch of protesters who had blocked off large portions of the highway leading up to the O'Hare airport. And the entire terminal was blocked, and there was a massive traffic jam for many hours. And of course it made it to the news, international news. I don't know who organized it. To my knowledge, it's no Islamic organization, Muslim organization did that. 50 people, I was told, have been arrested so far from those who did that protest. Golden Gate Bridge as well, similarly, protesters went and blocked that in the recent past. Small efforts of these by even non-Muslims to show solidarity with the oppressed ones. That's all they're looking at. On the other hand, us as believers, we don't have time to show solidarity to oppressed ones. Unfortunately, we don't have time to show solidarity with Muslim oppressed people. And this is where we have to question the strength of our faith and the strength of the commitment of our faith. There are so many ways we can show our commitment. One, of course, is 2 rakat Salat al-Hajj every night, giving sadaqah, reading Surah Yasin, begging Allah Azza wa Jalla after every salah for help, doing qunut nazil after salat in our Fajr salah. These are many ways. But from amongst those other ways beyond that is at least showing the world and showing ourselves and showing Allah that at least we tried to use whatever means were at our disposal. And that is raising our voice wherever we can. SubhanAllah, as you may have heard in the past many weeks, the city of Chicago was one of the very few cities in the entire United States that called for a ceasefire. Are people going to listen? The world's going to listen? Who cares what Chicago says, right? But that's not the point. The point is you are sending a message to the people who live in Chicago that we are people who have a conscience. We're a people who are alive and awake and alert, and we cannot simply watch a genocide happening while we stay silent, enjoying our home, our comforts, our food, etc. It reminds me of the nation of Bani Israel when sin was being committed and the Israelites were going against the laws of Sabbath and were fishing when they're not supposed to fish, coming up with a loophole, as you are well aware, that they would create a pool, a pond, where all the fish would come and a dam would be created. And so those fish would come there, even on Saturday, would come and get locked up there. And then on Sunday, they'd easily pluck those fish from there. The reason why Allah tested them, because Allah would make those fish Specifically on Saturday, float right on top. The rest of the week, you have to go find them. But on Saturday, Allah Azza wa Jal made them float right on top to test them, which actually happens many times in our own lives. That haram is just right there. You're like, man, I'm looking for halal. You have to go behind to go find halal. Haram is right in front. And that is, you shouldn't say, oh, I guess God wants me to use haram. No, that's a test from Allah. That haram is much more accessible than halal at times, to see where's your willpower. So they began to break the laws of Sabbath. Allah Azza wa Jalla talks about how certain people, they said, we're not doing this. And they did their own thing. They were not involved in this treachery and breaking the orders of Allah. There were others who said, we have to stop the people. But they're not going to listen. They don't listen to us. Said, well, why should you stop? What's the point of you talking when they're not going to listen? And the answer they gave was powerful. They said, مَعَذِرَةً إِلَىٰ رَبِّكُمْ. At least we have an excuse to present to Allah that we tried. I know what you're saying is right. They're probably not going to listen. But we have to at least try so we can share this with Allah. That, Ya Allah, we try to stop them and yet they didn't take heed. This is something what we need to also remember. That there is a concept of ma'adhiratan ila rabbikum, where you at least show Allah that you tried. Knowing very well that it might not have an effect. But what can you do? You can't just sit and watch as you get slaughtered. You have to stand up and do something. So from amongst those ways are at least getting our local towns where we have a massive presence of Muslim population. Lombard, Glen Heights, Villa Park. Thousands of Muslims are in this district, thousands. Recently, I was told, in one of these districts, not even where we are at today, next door, Villa Park area, 16,000 Muslims in that district and only 3,000 registered voters. So anytime the representatives of the Muslim community go say something to the politicians, it's like, well, you're not here. It's like, what do you mean we're here? We run all the businesses, we got all the professional offices, we're here, what are you talking about? Like, well, let's look at the voter list, and there's only 2,000. But we have 16,000. That's a massive amount in one area, in one district. It's huge, percentage-wise. But the simple thing of taking 30 seconds to get yourself to register to vote is something we don't have time for. It just really speaks volumes of our level of commitment to the ummah. Right now, tomorrow, after repeated tries of a few extremely dedicated members of our community to get Glen Heights to vote on the Gaza crisis, to say this is a genocide and we call for ceasefire, it's again not going to have an effect on the world. But it's simply to clear our conscience that as a community, in a strong Muslim population was able to get their non-Muslim neighbors to understand the extent of the atrocities. And Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam's hadith just came to my mind. Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam said, إِذَا أُمِدَتِ الْخَطِيئَةُ فِي الْأَرْضِ. Whenever a sin is committed on earth, مَنْ شَهِدَهَا وَكَرِهَهَا كَانَ كَمَنْ غَابَ عَنْهَا. Whoever's present there and dislikes it will be treated as though he was never there. وَمَنْ غَابَ عَنْهَا. Whoever wasn't there, وَرَضِيَ بِهَا, but was pleased with that sin, كَانَ كَمَنْ شَهِدَهَا, will be like the one who was present there. Apply it over here. That we're not there, we're here, but we're saying, Ya Allah, we are opposed to what's happening. We hate what's happening. It will be like we are in the midst of that battle, inshallah, inshallah. Be treated like that. That we're in the midst of that and we are raising our hands saying this is wrong. We're not there right now. We're here in the comfort of our homes, in the comfort of the luxurious lifestyles that Allah has blessed you and I with. But at least voicing our concern. This, if done with sincerity, it's not going to impress the world, but it will impress Allah. It might not hold any weight in this world, but it will definitely hold weight in your book of deeds. So it's taken months and weeks of efforts of simply getting this issue on the ballot or on the agenda of the meeting, weekly meeting. It took a lot of effort by a few brothers. At last, tomorrow, this issue has come to the Glen Heights meeting, 7 p.m. There's a meeting, and this is part of the agenda. Many Muslim brothers have showed up in the past few weeks. The response of the team, or rather the executive board, is you guys are bussing in people. When we're not bussing in people. These are locals. But say, how come we never see you ever? If you are here, how come we never see you ever present? That's a legitimate question against me and against all of us. Why are we not present? And why is it only one issue that we show up? Why don't you care about the sanitation? Why don't you care about the local schools? Why don't you care about taxes? Why don't you care about all the other things? It's true. We live here. We have to take care of our city. So we should take this cause tomorrow. All those brothers in Glen Heights, we need to be present. We need to, those local suburbs as well. Those of you listening here, make sure you go take your sons with you, take your daughters with you, let them see how this stuff works. And they're giving an opportunity for locals from that town to speak. Come prepared, share a few words. And additionally, let's make this a resolution from our community that inshallah we will send a group of people every week by rotation. Your turn can just come maybe once every 6 months, even once a year. But if we have at least 5 Muslims, 10 Muslims, subhanAllah, in every meeting, you could sit there, you do your dhikr, you do your dua, do whatever you want to do. But your presence means a lot. The fact that, hey, we are here, we're not just some little random people you just tell us to shut up and we stay quiet. Alhamdulillah, we're a group of very well-educated, well-to-do individuals who have a very good understanding of what is best for our community. And we will voice our opinion for the sake of the betterment of not just the Muslim community, but the general community. I have full faith in our community that when given the ability, honestly, we can lead in the best possible manner. We can have the best opinions. We can have the best foresight. Why? Because we are driven by the nur of Iman. We're driven by the teachings of Allah and His Rasul sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Nothing matches that. When you have that in place, the people in front of you will have their jaws dropping. Like, where did you get this from? This is such an amazing point you have. Where did you get this point of view from? Of course, wala fakhr, we're getting it from Islam. Islam is the thing that has given us this viewpoint. So I encourage myself and all of you here tomorrow to please attend the Glen Heights meeting at 7 o'clock at the Civic Center, at the courthouse. And inshallah, try our best to let's work, galvanize. Some of you can take a lead. I'm presenting this fikr in front of you. Some of you take the lead and say, you know what? Why don't we distribute from MSI, from Darus Salam, ICW, etc., the local masajid, and we have a group of people who will every 6 months, every 8 months, no problem, whatever it is. But we have a group of 3 to 4 people present in these meetings, inshallah, who can study the agenda and voice our opinion on whatever is relevant. We can make mashwara with others. Hey, this is the issue at discussion at hand this week. Have you got any thoughts into that? Inshallah, if we can't change the world, at least we can make this community right around Darus Salam and right around the other masajid a very loving, caring, favorable community for our generations. Most of us are not planning to move, are we? Inshallah, we're planning to stay here. Our children are born here. Inshallah, our grandchildren will be born here. Why not settle down and really make this place a very beautiful place for our generations? Subhanallah wa bihamdihi, subhanakallahumma bihamdik, shalla ilaha illa anta, nastaghfiruka wa natubu ilayk. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.